I love the smell of napalm in the morning. You know, one time we had a hail bomb for 12 hours.
We were in the jungle. There were too many of us. We had access to too much money, too much equipment, and little by little, we went insane. This is a story about a war movie and the impossible battle to finish it. So the quote you just heard was from Francis Ford Coppola, and it's what he said to the reporters at the Cannes world premiere in May 1979. The film he was talking about was, of course, Apocalypse Now, which is considered one of the greatest movies ever made.
Fuck him. Hey, soldier. Do you know who's in command here?
Nearly 50 years ago, it was seen as a disaster with a production chaos that fits its title.
The embattled figure in this drama is director Francis Coppola, who once again finds himself waging a war to keep his dream financially afloat.
For those who don't know, Apocalypse Now is a magnum opus from a director Francis Ford Coppola, loosely based on a Heart of Darkness book with a setting change to the Vietnam War. Captain Willard, played by Martin Sheen, is on a mission to locate Colonel Kurtz, played by Marlon Brando. He's a rogue officer who went insane. Now, if you haven't watched it, save one evening, because it's one of these pictures that need to be seen at least once. Plus, it has other famous names in it, like Robert Duvall, Harrison Ford, and Lawrence Fishburne.
Saigon. Shit. I'm still only in Saigon.
When asked if the movie was about Vietnam, Coppola responded that it was Vietnam, referring to the production hell that started from the get-go. Because first, it was money, as always. Because no one wanted to finance the project, which was supposed to cost $12 million. Now, it grew to over 30 million, but we'll get to that.
You know, I had 5 Oscars and 2 first prize of the Cannes Festival, and nobody would let me make Apocalypse Now. I went around hat in hand with all these awards and this, success.
According to Britannica, Coppola decided to finance the project himself, risking his money, family, and sanity.
Well, he did, at one point, he fainted, he had a collapse, and he told me that he could see himself going down a dark tunnel, and he didn't know if he was dying or leaving this reality or what was happening to him.
The Independent reported that because of the stress, the director suffered seizures and his mental health collapsed. Coppola expected the shoot, which was in the Philippines, to take around 14 weeks.
I wondered if I'd be able to keep up a strenuous schedule. At the time I hired on, remember, it was only a 16-week shoot.
Well, logistical problems, natural disasters, ongoing conflict with rebel groups, and other problems resulted in a slight change to the schedule, which took 238 days just to film the script. As Slash Film explains, it was as if fate itself didn't want Coppola to finish the movie. At first, it was a so-called act of God. In 1976, the New York Times reported that Typhoon Olga hit the Philippines, flooding the country and with thousands of people trying to get to safety in Manila alone. Now, unfortunately for Apocalypse Now, the typhoon hit 2 months after the shooting started and completely ruined the sets and crew accommodations.
This is the first day of heavy rain. A typhoon is off the coast. I've never seen it rain so hard. Water has started coming in the rooms downstairs, and Sophia is splashing around in it.
Now, the production was delayed by 8 weeks, and the destruction costs were around $2 million. Also, as Slash Film reported, apparently the US government didn't want to help the film crew, as they saw the movie as making them, the bad guys in Vietnam. But it didn't stop Coppola. Dangerous conditions were all around them, and as he said himself, before the CGI, they had to do everything as realistically as possible. One Filipino construction worker died when a log fell on him while they were building set, but I guess Coppola forgot about that.
I am so thankful in my life that I made that film and there was not one accident, not one loss of life or of even injury.
Yeah. They were real helicopters borrowed from the government, and they were working with dangerous animals.
So the guy come around and say, Yambi's very hungry today, Martin. He's very hungry, Mr. Coppola. I'm sure he will do exactly what you want. We haven't fed him in a week. Oh, shit.
And imagine the logistical nightmare of moving equipment in the heart of the jungle.
38 takes, and Francis said the scene was never the way he wanted it. The people who were playing the severed heads sat in their boxes buried in the ground from 8 in the morning till 6 at night.
Anything to finish the movie. I'm sure that Coppola hoped that in spite of all the natural disasters, at least the team would be on board with his vision, ready to push through in making his masterpiece. Well, no luck there. And the first problem was with the lead. Harvey Keitel was cast as Captain Willard, but he wasn't meant to be, even though he was an actual US Marine, or, he served.
We bit the bullet and did, a very, very unpleasant thing, which is replace an actor in mid-shooting. Not only unpleasant, but expensive, since we had to throw out several weeks of work and start over.
He was fired only after 2 weeks of shooting, as, quoting Coppola, he was too aggressive and lacked everyman vulnerability to play the part.
I was disappointed, and I was hurt on some level, yes.
It was now a frantic attempt to convince Martin Sheen to replace him.
I'd heard about Harvey, and the thing, it really surprised me that he was not involved anymore, because he was a real Marine.
I know.
Sheen agreed to do the role of Willard, but he also battled demons as the production started.
I'm an alcoholic, and I had to come to grips with it. I had to exorcise that out of myself.
Now, some of his drunken improvisations during filming are iconic cinema. The shoot was so demanding that he suffered a near fatal heart attack during the production.
I chose to have that heart attack. I needed to have that heart attack. There was a part of me that was already dead. I had to die to that part of myself.
But the art of filming never stops, and when Sheen was recovering, his brother Joe did lots of long shots and some voice-overs for the movie.
And you left me Joe.
My brother, yeah.
And we just continued shooting with Joe, and he physically looked like you.
And without the brother doing stand-ins, the movie would not have been completed. The lead was sorted, but there were other actor issues. Marlon Brando was a legend at the time when Apocalypse Now was made. Coppola knew it. He worked with him on The Godfather, of course.
We've known each other many years, but this is the first time he ever came to me for counsel, for help. I can't remember the last time that he invited me to your house for a cup of coffee.
And he wanted him to bring out the best in this new project too. He cast him to play the insane Colonel Walter Kurtz. The angry, strong warrior who went rogue in a jungle. Marlon Brando had a surprise in store for the whole crew. When he showed up on set, he shocked everyone, as, quote, he was enormous, maybe 300 pounds. Damn! Which almost gave the director a heart attack.
When he showed up, he was heavy, and it made it a little difficult because how are we going to dress him like a Green Beret Marine colonel?
Because there was no big enough Green Beret uniform to wear. He had to wear black and be filmed in the shadows to hide his size.
Weighed in at 360 pounds or something, Marlon for Apocalypse, and
Not only that, even though his shoot was supposed to be only 2 weeks, Brando wanted $1 million for it. He didn't read the book or the script and refused to memorize his lines. So Coppola had to change his plan, allowing the actor to improvise most of his scenes. Oh, and Coppola had to shut down the production to literally read the script to Brando while everyone waited. Marlon Brando then shaved his head and decided to just go with the flow and let the camera capture whatever happened during the shoot.
The bloodlust.
And there was another issue. Apparently there was a beef between Brando and Dennis Hopper, who played a photojournalist in the film.
Every crack represents a life I've saved. You know what I mean?
Brando didn't want to work with him, so they had to shoot the scenes separately.
meeting him was one thing, and then working with him on Apocalypse Now, we had a lot of problems together, and he refused to be on the set the same time I was. And
now it's fine, these things happen on sets. But a unique payment method probably didn't help the situation, as Hopper agreed to play the role only if Coppola agreed to have a steady supply of cocaine delivered to him during the filming.
I was not in the greatest of shape, you know, as far as my career was concerned.
Apparently, he didn't shower, he smelled really bad and was constantly high and drunk on the set, on a diet of, quote, drugs and alcohol that would kill a horse. He wanted to have at least one scene with his hero, Marlon Brando, but unfortunately, it didn't happen.
You know something, man? I know something that you don't know. That's right, Jack. The man is clear in his mind, but his soul is mad.
But that's not the end of Controversies, and if you subscribe, you will get to hear about them. So, during a Colonel Kurt's compound scene, we see hanging corpses.
It's over there too! And watch out, those goddamn monkeys bite you, I'll tell you. Ah, that's a pretty one. Move it right in toward me.
What the crew confirmed was that at first they got real bodies for the scene.
When they were doing that, the prop guy said to the production designer, "Should we tell him about the bodies?" And I said, whoa. What bodies?
These were supplied by a grave robber who initially sold stolen bodies to medical schools. When officials learned about them, they launched an investigation into the production, even accusing them of murder. But once they found the grave robber, the bodies were removed by a local soldier and the scenes were shot using extras and mannequins instead. Now the bodies were never identified and no one knows what happened to them afterwards. Another huge controversy was when a water buffalo was killed with a machete at the end of the film. Because buffaloes were killed in rituals by Filipino tribes, Coppola wanted to add such a scene to Apocalypse Now. As you can imagine, he didn't apply for any animal protection laws and just got the tribe to do it again, this time on film. What else? Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the Filipino government was battling rebels at the time of filming. So even though they lent the crew helicopters, they had to recall them all the time for actual fighting.
Imagine here I am with about 50 things that are just quasi in my control, like the Philippine government and fucking helicopters, which they take away whenever they feel like, and they've done it 3 times already.
And add to that claims of parties, drugs and unrestricted behavior by the crew. Like Coppola said in Cannes, they were slowly going insane. But even the maddest of times must come to an end sometimes. The filming was done, but it wasn't over for the director, who postponed the release several times due to over 1 million feet of film that he had to edit. So much material led to several versions of Apocalypse Now being released over the years. The original 1979 theatrical cut ran for 153 minutes, in which Coppola removed some of the slower scenes, making this version the shortest, but also the clearest in the narrative. After that, he released a couple of other versions, re-editing the movie with legendary Walter Murch, adding runtime but also slowing down the pacing, according to some critics. For their 40th anniversary, he released the final cut in 2019, which is a sort of a compromise between the theatrical and the director's cuts, running at 182 minutes. When Apocalypse Now was released in August 1979, it received mixed reviews, but it was commercially successful, making over $100 million worldwide, making back the overblown budget of $30 million. It was nominated for 8 Oscars, winning 2, and various other awards like BAFTA, Golden Globes, and Palme d'Or. While initially Coppola's vision was criticized, over time the legacy of the film cemented itself as one of, if not the best, of his works. Many movies imitate or parody scenes from the film. The line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," wrote itself into pop culture forever.
You smell that? Nothing else in the world smells like that, son. I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
The Baylor Beach became known as Tally's Point and a surfing destination. And the soundtrack, with the mix of rock music and Western classical leitmotifs, became go-to for war movies for years to come. When someone says, they don't make movies like that anymore, we usually imagine a boomer reminiscing about, the good old times.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
However, when it comes to Apocalypse Now, I think I agree with this sentiment, because they certainly don't make them like back then, and for a good reason, right? Because I don't think Marvel or Disney would send their crew on a drug-fueled mission into a jungle during a regional conflict to film another Avengers or Disney Live remake. A green screen on a safe filming set and an oat milk latte are the best they can do. And I don't blame them. But also, I don't expect Apocalypse Now 2 anytime soon. Thanks for watching. You can like, you can comment, you can subscribe if you want us to make more videos like this. See ya.